Hello and welcome to a look at the cool Croc Twins for the Commodore 64, a game that was released by Empire. Cool Croc Twins is actually an Amiga original game that was later converted to the Commodore 64, and it's a nice touch, I suppose. The plot, because of course plots, as we all know, are incredibly important, irrelevant of what game type you are playing. The Daisy Croquette has two admirers, which is in the shape of the two twins, Punk and Funk. And as they are both quite keen on her, and she's quite keen on them, but of course, because they are equally handsome and equally cool, she can't decide which one to go for, so she runs off to a crockery. Yeah. Punk and Funk are, of course, not keen on letting the potential love of their life skedaddle off, so they go chasing after her, and in order to win her hand, they have to navigate a minor detail called 60 platform puzzle levels. What you don't do for love, eh? At least you'll have to give the twins credit for their determination. The gameplay is that you have, if you can probably see on the screen, you have these boxes with these lines in, and when you bump your head into the boxes, a line will light up, I think it's called, and once all boxes has been fully lit, you move on to the next level. That is the basic gameplay, and it is relatively simple, but of course we can't have it being too simple. So in order to make things a bit more spicy, you have enemies on screen. These enemies will run around willy-nilly doing whatever they're doing, and some of them will home on you, and some of them will annoy you, and some of them will just be a nuisance in general. But the enemies that moves around like you do, which means changing platform level from time to time, they have a bad habit of bumping into the boxes that you are trying to light up, making them unlit in the process, so you have to go back and relight them. I suppose it adds to the sort of tactical way of playing this game, because of course you have to anticipate how to get back to the boxes quickly in case they are unlit by an enemy. The screens can contain various different elements, like rocks that has to be broken before you can hit the box. I'm fairly sure they're supposed to be lamps, but what do I know? And of course you have these question mark boxes, which when you bump into them will send you in a random direction, and when you have multiples of those connected to each other, it can get a bit funky, but they usually end up lining up eventually. The enemies, if you bump into them, you lose a life, but if they are in transition between two levels of the screen and you transition through them, you will kill them, and they will drop a coin of some description which you can pick up for bonuses, extra lives, that kind of stuff. Of course, they will respawn, because if they didn't, it would be too easy, but that is essentially the foundation of the game. Graphics-wise, except for the fact that the main sprite is looking a bit dull, perhaps. I mean, it's green and brown. Crocodiles and crocs, I suppose, are green, so it makes perfect sense, but you could perhaps have wished for a bit more detail. The enemies are discernible as being enemies because they're darker colored, and outside of that, they are fairly well detailed as well, and general animation quality is fairly decent all around. The backgrounds, a bit funky perhaps, but not entirely unpleasant to look at, so graphics-wise I don't have any major issues. A bit more detail in the main sprite would have been nice, but outside of that, I'm perfectly fine with it. The sound design is going into the game itself, a funky soundtrack, and it is indeed funky, and I hope you enjoy it for being funky, because that is the soundtrack that will follow the game along the way. Irrelevant of how funky it may be, it will get a bit tedious after a while. That being said, the quality is undeniable. It is a decent enough sounding tune, and it does have a certain level of funkiness. The main title tune sounds a bit coarse and not overly good, but I can tolerate it. I am not particularly fussed either way. I never check for any sound effects, so blank. The controls though, and that is where it gets a bit spicy, because the game introduced a control scheme where you can either use a normal control scheme, or you can use the control scheme that the game overhypes to high heaven, considered to be super funky, which is in instead of just moving along the platforms and jumping and all that kind of stuff. Once you transition to another platform, when you move to the edge of it, you'll loop around the platform. And I have to admit that the control scheme felt incredibly wonky to begin with, but once I got used to it, I found it was actually entirely playable and by far the better system. Overall, it is a puzzle platformer, and you have seen what the game basically has to offer. It's not necessarily something I would play again. I'm not necessarily really keen on this kind of games, but for what it is, if you fancy yourself playing games like that, it's not too bad at all. Before we end this video though, I just want to showcase the Amiga version, which of course is the original that this game is based on. And we will just go through the introduction, which is a bit long. I could have edited it down, but you know what, let's just have it playing. Here you can get the full view of the two twins following around after they say like lovesick puppies, which they technically are. Which, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Being a lovesick puppy is, we've all been there at one point, and some of us are there, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But of course, we also get to see her abandoning them to their own misery, and then they cheer up and decide to chase her anyway. The Amiga version, if you consider it's the original, it looks slightly better, which it should, but I have found the controls of this version to be extremely sluggish. Very, very sluggish. Identical to the Commodore 64 version, but very, very sluggish, and I did not enjoy playing the Amiga version at all. And by putting in this little snippet, I have guaranteed that I don't have to cover the Amiga version in a separate video, because after having played it for a few minutes, I didn't particularly want to. Cool Croc Twins, most likely infinitely better playing with someone. I don't have that luxury, but of the two versions, the Commodore 64 definitely wins hands down. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.